So thank you so much for sitting and talking with me today.
You're welcome.
So to get started, can you state your name and your profession?
My name is Stuart Egan, and I am a public high school teacher in Winston Forsyth County Schools.
Awesome. And what would you say is your political affiliation?
I am a registered Democrat. I have been registered as a Republican, but probably say the last 20 years as a Democrat.
Okay, cool deal. So what is your favorite news source and why do you use that source?
One of the reasons I tend to go to multiple sources is because I generally am an AP Lang teacher, which is argumentation and rhetoric at its basic form. And what that means is I tend to make sure that we see as many different sides of the issue as possible. So if I if I pick up something from, say, an MSNBC feed, sometimes I might go over to Fox News and say, okay, this is left wing, this is right wing. Not many central kind of things, but if I go to a news source that I know is usually going to be as objective as possible, I tend to be an NPR person.
Okay.
And then I will also go overseas and hit the BBC.
Okay.
But but I also troll a lot of uh, social media sites following journalists, specific journalists on specific things, like because I write a blog, so I follow a lot of educational journalists to see what they're into, and then we'll start to investigate from there. So it's a pretty wide net, actually. I think for most people.
I mean,
So,
that's absolutely
yeah.
fantastic and kind of tied into my next question. I was going
hmm
to ask about fact checking, but it seems like you kind of do that, cross referencing your
I
sources.
do cross reference a lot of things. I think a lot of people uh, don't do a good job of cross-referencing things. They go to one place, and sometimes speculation just becomes their gospel. Um, you know, I know if I'm going to read something from this source, I've got a pretty good idea
Right.
what their leaning is, and so sometimes it yeah, read different places. You gotta read things that do not try and cater to your belief system on the first, on the front end, or you may not find yourself reading something that forces you to think about critically about it. So yeah, especially in this day and age where you just get inundated with so much.
Absolutely. And feeding off of that too, how do you feel about social media and how it kind of shows content as far as
Uh, Social media companies, to me, I guess probably the biggest ones we know right now, Facebook and um, you know, Twitter, X, whatever we call it. I mean, they're out to make money. This isn't a public service. And so a lot of the people who are able to buy space on that are able to push things in such a way. So I think social media has an incredible, um, powerful way of spreading information, whether it's true or not. I think the responsibility they have to make sure that it's good information is something that kind of gets lost in their own interpretation. So, um, yeah, yeah, we're a gullible society.
mm-hmm.
We would not have need for advertisements. We would not have need for illogical logical fallacies and things that just defy reason. But golly, it makes us feel good, or it validates something that we have implicitly, um, prejudiced against, or what have you. I mean, we're that kind of society, and it's profitable for lots of people. So yeah, so I think social media contributes probably much more in the sharing of information than people realize. Uh, and I think most people would say it has an incredible amount. I think it's bigger than most of us imagine. So.
Yeah. All right. And final question I've got for you. So, why do you feel that accurate information is important, especially during an election cycle?
I think it's important no matter what, but an election cycle, uh, we present things in our society so much as an either or and forget that there's so many other extraneous matters. You can look at an issue not just from two different sides, you can look at it from a multitude of sides depending on, and I think when we talk about the election is that we're trying to pit this against this, and a lot of people are one issue voters, and so we tend to also we tend to have this, it's the bandwagon effect, ad populum, as well. So look how many people believe this. It must be true. Um, I think we don't have enough time in a day to thoroughly research everything, so we take other people's words for it. And in an election cycle like we have coming up here, you know, how many people can get how many words out there the loudest sometimes will swing a vote or two. You know, I don't think people realize in a presidential election, if one candidate wins 51% of the vote and the other candidate wins 49% of the vote, in presidential elections, that's considered a landslide. You know, um, we've had we've had close races here in North Carolina that were decided by, Tom Tillis became a senator with less than, I think, 48% of the vote. The third party person came in and probably took more votes away from the Democratic, person than, and that would be Hagan, than vote for. People don't realize that. That's you're not campaigning for. Uh, you're not going to switch people who are already pro-Trump. It's those 10% of people that you're going after. That's how much money's going into it. And if you want to talk about accurate information election cycle, just look how much out of state money is going to be spent on this gubernatorial race here in North Carolina. I mean, that's to buy, not just to give information, that's to buy a method of giving you my version of the information and as much of the information that I want you to have. And so, again, if you easily fall for things, then yeah, yeah. I think it also helps if more people talk to people that were outside of their socioeconomic demographic. You need to see how people look at things.
Absolutely.
I mean, middle class, upper middle class white guy who grew up in the South, there are certain things that just kind of get drilled into you by what societal thing. And you need to step outside of that and say, okay, how do other people view this? Why do they view this? Then it gives you another chance to look at the information people are presented to you. Are you really talking to everybody? Maybe, maybe not. So, yeah, I'm fascinated with this kind of stuff.
Well, you have given a lot of really great resources here. Do you have any parting words for anyone?
I think another thing that people forget to do when you talk about issues like public education, why don't you go talk to some teachers? If you're going to talk about medical, things, go talk to people who work in the medical field. Go talk to people who work in the insurance industry. If you want to talk about like reproductive rights and stuff like that, it's probably not the best thing to listen to a bunch of guys who will never end up in a situation. Go talk to women about it. Go talk to. You're going to need to talk to the younger generation. If you're unwilling to talk to this next generation coming up, they're a heck of a lot more ticked off about things than we ever were about certain things. Climate change, reproductive rights, those are two bellwether things right then and there for that younger generation. If you're unwilling to talk about those things, you pretty much have shut yourself off from the future generation. You know, and there are many people who are spreading information who are hoping you stay that way. And that's fascinating stuff.
Really is.
Fascinating stuff. So
Cool.
that's what I got.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking with me.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
All right,
Anytime.
thanks.
Anytime.